I think we're live streaming. So I'll do the intro. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Comic Spot. Yeah, this is your girl, Linda. Just, nothing to do. So I thought I'd get people on here who are just, like comedy legends and stuff. And tonight, you got another one here right in front of you over in that square. Yeah. The Charlie Wilson TV. Wave to everybody, Charlie.
Woo! What's up?
Yeah, I would like to say his introduction that he sent to me. So here we go. Charlie Wilson TV. He's a comedian, an actor, and a writer. He has been a writer and correspondent on the Wendy Williams show. Isn't that amazing? I love that show. That is one crazy show. I love it. I love it. He has been interviewed on the Steve Harvey show. Oh my gosh, I love Steve Harvey. You're knocking it out of the park in my arena here. He's done a national commercial with Tostitos. Yeah.
Good chips.
That in
solid
his
chips.
What's that?
No, I said solid chips. Solid chips.
And he's got an Amazon Prime special from season 2 at Laugh After Dark. And then I just got a little bit more to read here. Hold up. Because I'm not saying I'm old. I won't throw myself under the bus. But I have these little moments where I need you all to be patient with me. This is one of them. Here we go. So I have to enlarge the letters. How can you imagine that? There's a new style of comedy that hails from Shreveport, Louisiana. His name is Charlie Wilson. From the moment he takes the stage, and I know this because I have seen him do it, from the moment he takes the stage, the audience is left in tears. He often describes his gift as medicine for the soul. So you wonder why he's on here. Now you're getting the drift. He is rapidly making his impact in the entertainment community. Wilson, Charlie Wilson TV Wilson, has opened up for major headliners and promoted and produced and hosted his own shows all across the country, you guys. Did you hear me in there? Oh my gosh. Charlie has also made appearances in the nationally syndicated, like I told you, Wendy Williams show. And I'm going to skip past that to where it says he lived in New York City for 5 years, sharpening his craft. And that's where you do it, in New York. He has since relocated to Los Angeles, and I think as of late, maybe Vegas, where he performs in landmark venues like the Laugh Factory, you guys. We got him here tonight for you. While making his way in the world of television and film. This is the real deal, you guys. In addition to being a well sought after comedian, his heart is in the right place. This is the part I like the best. He has a nonprofit organization called Jokes for Jackets for those in need of warm clothing in New York. Look out for upcoming projects in the fall. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy you're here. We have to chop up your entire life. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Welcome to Little Tiny Comic Spot, the Charlie Wilson TV. Yay!
So excited to be here. Thanks for having me, girl.
I am so glad you're here. Oh my gosh. So you're from Shreveport, Louisiana originally.
Small town Shreveport. That's where it all started. So the backstory is my mom is originally from Compton, California, and my dad is from just north of Shreveport, just south of Shreveport, called Coshado, smaller town. Country boy, they had horse and chickens and hogs, and his brothers and himself were all military. So all of my uncles and my dad was military. So he traveled a little bit, and his brothers relocated to LA, and that's when he met my mom.
Yeah. What branches of the military?
So my dad was Army. He was in the Army Reserve, and he was stationed. And where was he stationed at for a long time?
What state?
It's gonna come to me in a second, probably random because he talks about it. Fort Bragg, Fort Bragg.
North
Yeah.
Carolina.
So yeah. So
Army.
anyway.
I'm Army.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
Sir.
He was a paratrooper, I think. So he hopped out of planes and stuff like that. So choppers. So he always gives me those stories and that perspective. And his brothers relocated to LA, to Long Beach, and he went out to a club, and that's how he met my mom. And they fell in love. She moved to Louisiana, and that's where I was born in the mid 80s in the summertime. And, you know, I was raised there as a little country kid. We were in a cool little subdivision, little neighborhood. We were one of the only Blacks on the whole block of the neighborhood, but they made their point to try to get me in a good environment, you know, good school district and all of that. And, you know, my mom was in banking and
I was in
really?
banking 24
Wow.
years.
Wow.
Go ahead with your story.
Very cool. Very cool. You got a lot in common with my family there.
Yeah.
So yeah, my mom was into banking and she was, you know, really good with numbers and trying to keep in track with things. And my dad was a workhorse. He got into the railroad business. So he had to travel and work for a railroad. And, you know, he worked his way up with that. And, you know, it's just me and my younger brother and my sister. And, you know, I was the middle child and Shreveport, Louisiana.
I'm the middle child and my stepdad was in the railroad.
Wow. Our families would get together and have so much to talk about, right? So yeah, Shreveport is where it all really started. I didn't move until I was like 18 years old, but you know, middle school, high school, and everything for me was very, very normal, very small town. Hollywood was very out of sight. You know, you see the movies, but you know, it was very far-fetched, so to speak. So you know, I got involved with like plays and, you know, church events and stuff like that. So those are the things that kind of opened up things.
So being in the church, is that what inspired what you do at the end of Laugh After Dark shows?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I think so. I was in one of those families where we went to church. You know, we had the morning service, we went to church in the night service. My mom was an usher at one point, and you know, I used to sing in the choir as a kid. So vacation Bible school, like I was like, Mom, I'm just trying to play Sega Genesis. Like, why are we going to church again? Like, what are we doing? So it was a lot of church. So I got to spend a lot of time, you know, learning about faith. You know, that's probably one of the biggest things that have helped shape and, you know, develop my life is that just that faith to continue, keep going. So yeah, I think that inspired a lot of the church scenes and how I relate to pastors, because church is, you know, has always been a big part of my life.
Oh, that's great to hear. And here you are in the comedy business with as a person of faith. So that, you know, that's got to be like eye-opening, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, you got to have faith to be a comedian, I believe. You know, you have to have faith in yourself, but also, you know, how your life is shifting and moving, and there's all these other moving parts at the same time. So faith is kind of something that really needs to be a blanket, you know, over everything. Obviously, you need to have it in your career, but over your life, because life will send you to places and it'll be unexpected. You'll have turmoil, but yeah, you know, in church they used to say, if you have faith but of a mustard seed, right? You know what I mean? If you just have that faith, then you will always be able to kind of dig and then work yourself out of, you know, a lot of the situations and circumstances that life, you know, throws at you. So I'm fortunate of that upbringing.
That's great. I was born into a Jewish family, but my parents survived the Holocaust.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Okay, cool. Where are you from originally?
Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay, cool.
I had to get out of there before they burnt it down.
I've been there. I've been to Portland once, but very beautiful. It rained on us, but I was in and out.
That's why it's beautiful, because it's always raining.
Right.
Yeah. So you grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Right.
Was it exposed to some performing?
Yeah, just mostly throughout school. You know, the good thing is I got involved in church plays and church functions, and you know, I was involved in my school. We had some school plays I did in high school, and you know, speaking in front of the church. You know, every now and then they'll have a young kid come up and read a scripture or say some words. So that was one of the first times I remember I was able to like move a room. You know, I had a chance to kind of speak about faith, and you know, if you'll turn to Matthew chapter 6. In verse 33, y'all, take your time, take your time. You know, and I remember just the crowd kind of laughing and kind of rolling back a little bit and, you know, being able to just, you know, get some giggles in from doing that. And I remember after the church was over with, everyone comes over and they're like, oh my gosh, it was so funny. Good to see you. Just some unexpected laughter they didn't, you know, usually get on a normal Sunday. So, you know, those kind of moments like kind of opened up my eyes. And even when I was in middle school, I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided to run for student council. So I was like student council president. I remember running and trying to get my friends to vote for me. And I had this little campaign speech that I did. And this was back when everybody was saying this popular catchphrase called the bomb. It's going to be the bomb, y'all. Remember that?
Yeah.
Everyone was making everything the bomb. So I remember just saying, hey, y'all, I know this has been a challenging school year, but if you vote for me, I'll ensure you that this upcoming school year will be the bomb. And all the kids went crazy. And, you know, so they voted for me. And, you know, I remember just kind of having fun. And, you know, those moments helped me understand that, damn, like being you is okay. You know, being you can work, you know, because when you're younger, it takes a lot of people a little bit of time to figure out you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to fit in, you know, so those moments kind of help give me the confidence that I needed in just being myself.
Yes. And so you then decided to move from Shreveport, Louisiana, all the way to Los Angeles to try out.
Oh no, there was a lot in between. So I actually, I left Louisiana and moved to Dallas. I was in a, you know, long-term relationship with my high school sweetheart. So her and I decided to move to Texas. So that's where we started. And, you know, Dallas, Texas, I got into the sales business. I was in the car business. So I started selling Volkswagens, and then I got into the Lexus business. And I still had more of a theater background because I did some stage plays in high school. So when I moved to Dallas, you know, there were some stage plays and some theater shows kind of going on. So I started to audition, and, you know, throughout high school is when, and middle school even, is when I first started knowing that, you know, Hollywood is something that was always top of mind. In fact, my PE teacher, my gym coach, Coach Bogan, shout out to Coach Bogan, he used to call me Hollywood in middle school. He used to call me Hollywood in Louisiana, and I was just a middle school kid. So it was always kind of in mind, oh man, Charlie's crazy, oh, Charlie's goofy, that Hollywood was somewhere in the back of my brain. So anyway, fast forward to
we had a coach Bogan, we had a track coach in Renton, Washington, in a 98% Black school. We had Coach Bogan, the track coach.
Ah,
so like that's where
I had a white Coach Bogan, so they didn't know each other. Shout out to both Coach Bogans.
Yeah, go on with your story.
Yeah, so you know, fast forward to Dallas, I started continuing to do the stage plays and the theater stuff, and me and my high school sweetheart moved out there, and you know, I'm selling cars, I'm in the sales business, and I'm kind of finding somewhat of a career path because I get into sales and I'm good at it. I like talking to people. And, you know, I kind of move up within that. But the stage plays continue to go on. I'm doing these, you know, plays here and there. And my wife and I were kind of going through a time. We got married, you know, early and young. And we broke up. So she decided that she was going to pursue an opportunity in New York. So she flew and moved to New York, and I was still in Texas, you know, still like, all right, well, whatever. You know, we've been together since we were young. I'm just gonna do my own thing then, right? So she moves to New York, and maybe after a month of kind of being by myself, you know how we are, fellas. You know, we think we want to be single, and then 2 weeks later, hey, baby, how you doing? Just want to check on you. You all right? Yeah, no, I'm good. You know. And then you end up talking and working it out. So that's what I did. You know, I quit my job, I sold my car, and I bought a ticket to New York, and I kind of pursued our relationship. And that was where, you know, I was in a new place, you know, New York City, you know what I mean? So I stumbled into an open mic there, you know, so that New York is where comedy started.
What open mic?
It was a spot called the Inspired Word NYC. They were in Lower Manhattan, you know, on the east side of Manhattan. And it was mostly a poetry spot.
Nice.
And one of my friends in Dallas, I was doing a stage play with, Florida P, shout out to Florida P. He was the one who told me as we were warming up on stage to get ready for our theater production, I was doing the sound check, just kind of goofing off. He was like, hey man, you ever try comedy? Because he did comedy. It's like, you should try comedy. I was like, oh, maybe I will. I don't know. So when I moved to New York, that seed had been planted. So I was like, you know what? I don't know anybody here. Even if I suck, I don't know anybody here. Let me stumble into this open mic. And at that open mic, I went up there and just kind of riffed a little bit, and I did 5 minutes, and the feedback was good. The owner of the club was like, "Hey man, you did a really good job. How long you been doing this?" And I was like, "Kind of my first time." And at that moment, it was just kind of like I fell in love, and the next open mic, and within a couple of months, social media was also booming. So it was like, "Hey, you want to do this show?" Or, "Hey, would you do this one?" And that's when I kind of started opening up for bigger people within a couple of months. And, I knew that I still wasn't going to get booked. There are no managers that go and pick you up when you're a nobody. So that's when I started producing my own shows. And I was like, let me try to get a venue. Let me start seeing if I can pull this off myself. So I always have a place to perform, and I can work with other comedians and get to know people and give them a platform to perform. So that first year moving to New York, that was things that kind of started happening. And
I've lived in New York and done comedy there through Comic Strip Live.
Oh yeah, Comic Strip, yeah. I produced the show there too. Yeah.
You did? Oh,
yeah.
Have you ever met Gladys Simon?
Maybe the name is not ringing a bell.
She has the Gladys Simon room. It's like developmental comedy, where you go in and work on your craft, mic, but she puts on shows. Anyway, I'm part of her crew every week. Okay. So
cool.
To this day, she's my hero.
Oh,
so
cool.
She found me and she saw talent in me when I didn't.
Wow.
So I love New York. So you produced shows in New York City.
Correct.
And what club did you say you performed the shows in?
So the first show that I produced was the nonprofit that I started called Jokes for Jackets. It was a December in New York. I remember I think it was cold. There was a blizzard. It was at Broadway Comedy Club in Midtown Manhattan at Times Square, like 48th and whatever, Broadway, I think. And I remember
Al Martin.
Yeah. I remember just being super nervous. It was a blizzard, so people weren't showing up like the way I thought they were, but we still got some good tourists, to kind of fill some seats. And, once I kind of got through that, then, it was great. I think the first show I ever did on my own was in my hometown in Shreveport, Louisiana. I went back home first because I didn't want to fail in New York horribly. So I did like a first show in my hometown. I was like, well, some of my friends will show up. I've already started doing comedy for a little while. Let me just do one in my hometown now. Hey, I'm coming from New York. And let me see how to structure out a show and host and book comics. And that was kind of the blueprint. And then when I came back to New York, that's when I did Broadway Comedy Club and kind of just started figuring it out from there and continuing to move to different venues throughout, Brooklyn or Manhattan, or sometimes it was a bar or a pub, and sometimes it was a lounge or whatever, but whatever I could get my hands on, I tried to just book as many shows and continue to rock as much as I could. And I sold cars in New York too. So I sold Cadillacs in Queens. I sold Range Rovers in Jersey, Chevys in Jersey. So I had to support my family too. I had to support the house and the bills, and New York City is expensive. So I busted my ass on the train and in the snow and up the stairs and running around town in cabs, trying to get off of work and sell cars and do comedy at night. So it was a bit exhausting, but I was having so much fun. It didn't really hit, I was going just 100 miles an hour, it felt like.
Yeah. Like I told her, I'm half Jewish. I'm Jewish, but I'm really only half. And Hitler started the Volkswagens. And I like you so much, I would buy a Volkswagen from you in the winter storm with no jacket.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Volkswagens for a while. Yeah. So in New York, I work with people with handicapped people and people with disabilities. So I got into the I did. I got in, like the wheelchair accessible vans with the automatic doors and the ramp. So I was in that business for about 4 years. So I worked for a company in Jersey, and that company helped me relocate to Los Angeles. So within that same industry, I ended up working in Van Nuys for a company doing the same thing. But yeah, adaptive driving equipment, hand controls, all those modifications, and of course, accessible vans and wheelchair lifts and scooters. Yeah, that was my career for a while until I got into being a car broker in LA. So just all sales, mostly car stuff, and grinding it out in New York. And after 5 years in New York in the snow and the winters, I was like, hey, this shit ain't gonna work out for too long, bro. It's cold as hell. My country ass is not used to this, bro. So well, how much longer we got left in this lease? Because it's cold. I got a scar, long johns. I was like, yo, this shit is too much. And my daughter was born out there as well. So trying to get a kid around in New York and Brooklyn and this stroller, I was like, we got to get out of here. So I was like, you know what? My mom was from LA. I got family on the West Coast. Let's get the hell out of here. So
Nice.
that's what inspired that move. It's just kind of feeling like time was up in New York to have a permanent residence, you know.
How did it go when you're past at the Comedy Store or the Improv? I think you said Comedy Store.
Yeah. The Comedy Store. So when I was in LA, you know, I did have an opportunity to hit some pretty cool stages, as well as some of the, you know, bars and clubs and lounges, and you perform in people's backyards. You're everywhere in LA. But, you know, I was fortunate enough to get into some of the cool, you know, rooms. You know, the Comedy Store, they have the belly room upstairs called Crack 'em Up Thursdays with Nichelle that she produces. Shout out to Nichelle. And then the main room at the Comedy Store where, you know, all the greats hit. You know, I was able to get on that stage and rock that out too. It was a great feeling. So, you know, New York is where I'm glad that I learned, because the comedy scene there can be a bit rough. It can be a bit of a workout. You got so many different nationalities, so many different crowds and tourists and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and, you know, everybody in Harlem and what's up, you know. So, you know, it's like Ninja Warrior for comedians in New York out there. You're all over the place, you know. So by the time I got to LA, you know, I felt, you know, confident enough, at least in myself, confident enough in myself to be able to perform wherever and however. So LA was a big, you know, just warm embrace, you know, of just comfortability, and the weather was good, the beach after all that cold shit. So I was just excited to be there.
For a comedian, if you're a strong comedy writer, you do well in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's about material. And then you come to LA, you can kind of relax a little and be more about the personality and the persona, and you can kind of get by with a little less.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. That's a strong point that you're making, because a lot of LA comics, look, I ain't trying to start nothing, but you can take your ass to New York and that shit ain't gonna fly. They ain't gonna laugh at you. They don't care who you are. They're like, who is this guy, man? Who is this, man? Like all that little cute shit. Hey, what's up, guys? What's going on? All that. Nah, like you gotta bring it, or they're not gonna feel you or give you the attention. So you gotta work a lot harder, in my opinion, in New York to kill stages and to work those rooms versus LA. Everybody's chill, you know, high and shit. Everybody's having a good time. It's kind of like, you know, whatever, and go with the flow. So I'm glad that I started in New York and then transitioned to LA.
Yeah. Nobody barely drinks before they go on stage, let alone get high. They go up there serious with their craft, you know, and like, then yeah, exactly. So you've been doing comedy from the time you started to now. How many years would you say?
11. This is about 11. This is year 11. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
At what point, Charlie, did you pick up your persona, or do you think you had it at the start? Because I can't see you develop. I think I have the answer to your question. Please. I think you had the persona before you got to stage.
Yeah.
And not everybody's that lucky.
Yeah, and I think that that's the coolest part. Yeah, you're right. And I think it's a pretty thing that I'm blessed and fortunate to be, is just kind of being myself and staying true to who I am. And again, I feel like it's gonna be a slower process in being who you are and kind of learning to be alone and to do it alone for a while and not run into every circle or whatever, you know, or get your followers up and have 1 million, you know, to do these little quick quirky things. But when you just do what feels right and you're staying true to yourself, you just embrace the process. And that's what I kind of got comfortable doing years ago, is I understood that it's a marathon. This is going to be a long, lengthy process. That's what it is in my head. That's why I made sure I had kept the job and I'm working throughout the day, because I was always keeping prepared that this is a journey, bro. Like, this is probably going to take some time. Everybody you're watching on TV, on the Netflix specials, 20 years in, you know what I'm saying? 15 years in, you know what I'm saying? There are very few that are less than that, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, a lot of newcomers in the game just hop into comedy and think, oh yeah, I'm gonna get, you know, 50,000 followers and I'm gonna be great. And that's the rare exception. You know, the majority of us are like, yo, just relax, get comfortable. This is gonna be a process. So that's the way I've always looked at it. And it's a good thing that I'm able to just be me, and finally feeling like me works and is working and is gonna work is a good feeling. So I'm definitely just grateful and kind of having fun with the process.
So, little disclosure, born Jewish, half Jewish, left the faith and became a Christian in high school, right?
Okay.
So, you know, a little of each. I got my life insurance in place. And so, so the thing is that I am strong about ethics in comedy. I'm not trying to be judgmental on other people, but as far as me, you know, and my house, my stuff has to be right, you know, like, and I assume if you spoke about your faith and your church and your upbringing, that you run your business. Comedy's a business. You're running Laugh After Dark shows. I assume that you're doing that in it, and you have a strong feeling for the ethics in the comedy business as well.
1000%. I think I noticed at an early age that it's about who you know and the relationships and the people and how people feel when you're around. You know, if they got to be on set all day or they got to work with a comic or you got to go on tour, it's like, how do I feel being around this person? So at the end of the day, I feel like the right people are going to stick and they're going to cling to me. And then everybody else, maybe not, but that ain't my problem. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, as long as I'm who I am and I'm putting my best foot forward and my intentions are in the right place, I feel good every day. You know, you're not going to please everybody because you still have to move accordingly to protect your peace and also protect your plan, you know, your future and what you're working towards. So, you know, you can't please everybody, but at the end of the day, you can rest easy in knowing my ethics and my intentions and, you know, love is at the root of, you know, where I'm at and where I'm going.
Yes, absolutely. I was raised, my dad he survived the Holocaust by lying, cheating, and stealing. And he taught us kids how to lie, cheat, and steal. And it wasn't until I went to church that I found out, hey, wait a minute, I was raised.
Right. We can't do this. This isn't making sense. Yeah.
So it feels really good to be on this side of things. I'm not saying anything against Judaism. I'm just saying my dad had to survive, and that's how he survived.
Sure. I think that's another good point too, because, you know, I come from a place like in Louisiana where, you know, it can be a little rough and people just have to do what they have to do to survive. But I think, you know, everybody gets to a place and should get to a place where they can kind of evaluate, just like you did, what you're doing and if that makes sense. Does this feel good? Does this feel right? Is this sustainable? Can I do this in 5 years and 10 years? And do I feel good about this? And if not, I mean, your gut ain't gonna lie to you, then, you know, you got to be able to go back and wake up the next day and try something else that makes you feel better and makes you feel fulfilled and makes you feel like you're living in your purpose and working towards your purpose. So being able to recognize that, I think that's half the battle. So, yeah.
So Charlie, you know, this is like education for me and other comedians and audience, people who watch, they're loving these videos. So they usually watch them after the fact, so don't worry. But the thing is that, like, what have you learned that you would like to impart on people that come to a comedy show and think it looks so easy, or new comedians or new people thinking about getting in? What you have knowledge of 11 years of sacrifice and grinding. What would you like to impart that you've learned?
Sure. I think that, you know, the biggest lesson that I probably have learned is just patience, you know, really just being patient, and also gratitude, you know, learning to be grateful, you know, in the midst of pursuing, you know, what you want, you know, so being patient, you know, you gotta be, because there is no telling when your break is gonna come. You know, there is no telling how long that break is gonna last when you get it. So be patient and understand that it's a process. So that's another thing that's got to keep you humble along the way, because you can be here 1 minute and then, you know, things could change. Shows get canceled, you know, opportunities close. So you got to just be prepared to be patient with yourself and your process. So patience is number one. And number two, just gratitude. Those are like the two biggest elements and principles for me. Gratitude. That's probably gonna be my next tattoo.
So shed a little light on gratitude, because some people hear it and they nod, but they don't really get what, you know,
I think
how do you practice gratitude?
So I think you gotta look at it in the big picture, in the big scheme of things, you know. I think most people spend most of their life trying to figure out what their passion is, you know, trying to figure out what their purpose is. How can they feel fulfilled at the end of the day? You know, so I think once you land that and you find that, that's a big victory. And then there's no money yet. There is no success yet. There's no clout yet. There is no fame yet. It's just you found your shit. You know what I'm saying? You found your thing. And that's a celebration in itself. So that's the first thing you got to be grateful for, because you could just, you know, go work your job and still feel lost, and go work your job and still feel like you have a bigger calling. You have more people to reach and more lives to touch. And that's a tough place to be. It's not knowing where you are best equipped to live and thrive in your purpose. So once you get that first victory, that's when the gratitude really click in. Then from there, you've got to be able to find gratitude throughout your process and throughout your journey. So I feel like those 3 words I've lived by since I started comedy: embrace your process. Like, everybody's process is going to look different. Everybody's journey is going to look different. But the more you embrace your own specific process, the more easy it is to find gratitude and to enjoy the rain and the hail and the storms and the closed doors, because that's a part of your process. You are learning those lessons for a reason. Your life is throwing you around and pulling you in all these different directions. So you do have more knowledge, more perspective, more to share, more people to touch. That's how experience and character are built. So it sucks to go through a lot of things, you know, but you got to always bring it back to, this is my process. I've got to carry my passion along with me throughout this process. So even though I don't see it and how everything is working out to benefit me, I've got to understand that at the end of the day, this is all building into my process, and it's all going to benefit my overall, you know, journey. So once you shift your perspective to that, gratitude becomes a practice. So I wake up in the day, the middle of the day, the beginning of the morning, I'm sorry, and I start the day with just gratitude and just, wow, I got my health, I got my lungs, I got my ribs, I'm breathing, I can walk, you know. So start there, you know. And once you start ground floor, everything else, okay, cool. I got a crib, I got my lights on, I got water, because, you know, there are people that don't. So if you start being grateful in the little things that you can see and touch and feel, but also those things that you can't, then everything else is just icing on the cake. And then you start to build up from there on that wall of gratitude, because you work your way up to the fact that, wow, I'm doing stand-up comedy. I get to make people laugh by being me. I get to change people's lives by being me. Even if I got $5, somebody gave me $5 for sharing a little piece of me for a little bit of time. That's huge. Where else can you do that? Where else can you do that? You know, there's speakers, motivational speakers, but comedy is one of those unique things where if you can figure out a way to be who you are and change other people's lives and yours, bro, relax. Everything else is going to work itself out. You'll have time to figure out how to get better, how to grow your business. Just be patient, right? And embrace the process as you continue to rise and grow.
That's the most articulate explanation of the comedy world that I've ever heard. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. I'd like to go into a couple of things.
Sure.
Okay, so you were on the Wendy Williams show as a writer and a contributor.
Yeah.
So I have to hear about that. I love that show.
Yeah. So that was I think somebody referred me to go and do a segment with them. They had a segment called Street Talk on her show where they would kind of talk to you outside and, you know, hey, it's Thanksgiving season. This is something you don't want. And they'd always kind of have some other celebrity kind of built into that. So, you know, very little small pay, but you got to get on this huge, on the Wendy Williams show. So that was an exciting opportunity that I got one time. And the time that I got it, I was selling cars. I was at work. I'm never available to audition, to go anywhere, because I'm in the car business. And when you're in the car business, you don't have time for much else, right? Unless it's at 10 o'clock at night. So I had to literally some days leave on lunch break, you know, tell my coworker, hey, cover for me. I'm going to take a long lunch today. Okay. But I had to make sure I was selling enough cars to where my managers wouldn't really sweat me because I was handling business. So I had to take an extendo lunch. They were like, all right, you know, Charlie, we'll see you in a bit, whatever, where you at, man? But I would literally hop on 2 or 3 trains to Manhattan to meet with the Wendy show. And, you know, sometimes I had my shirt and tie on as we shot our segment. And then I would leave and hop back on the train and then go back to selling cars. So I did a couple of those segments with them on camera, not in the studio with Wendy, but just those, you know, those street talk segments. And I told the director, the producer that, hey, you know, I've got a job, man. So it's kind of tough to get over here sometimes, but don't stop calling me. You know, this is great. This is all, you know, things that I need to help, you know, excel my career. So that's when he said, hey, you could actually, you know, write some of this stuff as well, and we can pay you for your ideas. And I said, get the hell out of here. Really? You're going to pay me for my ideas? I was like, wow. So the day that I got my first check from the Wendy Williams show, I almost cried. I actually probably did cry, because I was like, damn, that was the first time I got paid for just writing some jokes and some of my quirky ideas together for their show. So it wasn't much, but it was enough to just make me say, okay, wow, this is I turned on another motor inside me that just continued to feed into the momentum. You know, momentum was something that I started living by as well. When I started comedy in 2011, hashtags, momentum. I've got momentum tattooed on my arm because I feel like the more you start to celebrate your wins and your gratitude and live in those moments, you build that momentum that carries you to your next level. You know, so your life may not change financially. Your life may not change to where you're, you know, now you're on plaster on this and comedy promoters are hitting you up, but you're still building your momentum. You're still doing your thing. You're practicing, you're getting your reps in, you're getting better. You're building another relationship. You met a new person, you know, you tried a new joke. Everything is feeding momentum that's carrying you to the next level.
Oh my gosh, you're like so inspirational. You should be a motivational coach.
That's what's coming next. That's what's coming next.
Awesome. So I was on the Wendy Williams show one time.
Oh, cool.
Up on top of the Empire State Building, she asked me a trivia question and I got it right, and I got $14.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, and now let's talk about Steve Harvey, and then I'll tell you my connection to the Steve Harvey show. You go first.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So good story. I was quitting my job at I'm in the car business still, and I decided to leave my job doing wheelchair accessible vans. You know, I needed to I think make a little more money, have more flexibility. Something was shifting in that industry where I got out, so I needed to start a new job. So I got hired to sell Range Rovers in Encino in California, right?
Holy crap.
And one of the producers of the Steve Harvey show follows my Instagram. So she reached out to me and said, hey, I think you'd be great for a segment. And after I changed my underwear, I was so excited. I said, okay, cool. Like, when? And she told me this specific Monday, and like end of the year, you know, in September, is a Monday. But it's the same Monday I was supposed to start selling Range Rovers. I needed this job too.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, I got the Steve Harvey show with this opportunity to have this segment with Steve. And I got this new job that I'm supposed to stop to provide and take care of my family. But it's like, you know, you got a commitment. So I called a Range Rover and I was like, hey, could I just start Tuesday instead of Monday? You know, they were like, no, training starts Monday. We need you here. I said, oh, y'all gonna make me do this. So I said, you know what? I've got, you know, probably 15 years experience in the car business. If y'all don't want to work with me, I'm going on the Steve Harvey show. I'll get a job somewhere else. So I took a gamble and I didn't go to that first day at Range Rover, and I decided to go do the Steve show. So I'm calling my mom, I'm excited. And, you know, we got this segment lined up and I get to the studio, I got parking, you know, I'm passing out the Steve stuff, pictures on the wall. I got my own dressing room, Charlie Wilson. I'm just like, oh man, this is dope. So I was like, no, this is it. This is it. I left the job interview. Me and Steve, we go on set, we get into our segment. It's literally me and him on stage. We're kind of talking about, you know, office parties and holiday, you know, potlucks, right? So that's the kind of talking point. And then we were supposed to go to another little booth and get some food. Like we had the shit set up, right? But for whatever reason, Steve was a little chatty and kind of cut me off a little bit, and you know, stuff just didn't gel. It just wasn't smooth. And a lot of the people backstage before the show, they said, "Hey, this is live. Anything could happen." You know, sometimes Steve is just talking. I was just like, "All right, cool, whatever. Sure." And sure enough, when we were on set, I felt it. I was just like, I don't think this is gonna go down. You know, so we shot the segment. Everything was over with. We wrapped up, but I found out after that they weren't going to air it because of all of that. So I was just like, oh my gosh, there goes my job, Range Rover that I gave up on. And now this segment that we're supposed to shoot didn't air because it didn't gel. And, you know, that was a little bit of an emotional kind of pow, you know, but at the end of the day, I couldn't let something like that stop the operation or slow things down. It's another story at this point. And I've got to be grateful that I even had the opportunity to be there and to sit with him and to meet him and to have that impression and to be at the studio. So it came back to gratitude and the fact that it all continued to just feed momentum. So I just, you know, got back out of it, and, you know, I got another job, and I started at a Maserati dealership about 2 weeks after that. So
Take that, Range Rover.
I kept it pushing. Yeah.
I will never buy a Range Rover because of that.
Yeah, right.
So in 2000, I started comedy in 2014, but in 2013, the year before, my daughter was really depressed. You know, she was having trouble finding a job for a long period of time. She had trouble with the law, and she had something on her record, and she couldn't get hired. And so I went into super mode, you know, like a nosy mother does, you know, like stage mother. I went to the store and I got a billboard, and I wrote on there in big letters, "Hire my daughter, I'll give you $500, right? Somebody hire my daughter, she's depressed. But I didn't say that. I stood out on the street corner, and all the news cameras started converging on me. And the story went to every nation in the world. You can still Google it. A lot of the links fell off, but I got into Huffington Post. And then Steve Harvey's people called me on the phone. And they wanted me to come on the show, and they wanted to give me an entire makeover, a wardrobe, money, hairdo. And they wanted me to be Mother of the Year. And I'm like, my daughter didn't get a job yet, and I turned it down. Because of ethics.
Oh my gosh, she would have got a job. You could have, she would have got something if you were talking about the Steve Harvey show. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's my connection. What's it like to get a Tostitos commercial, and did that help your momentum?
It did, it did. Again, that's why I go back to being patient with the process, because sometimes you think, oh, if I could just do this, if I could just do that. But then when you get there, you understand it's just another notch on the belt. It's another great experience. It's another experience that just kind of adds to your resume and just you being in certain places. Sometimes I feel like you'll get put in certain environments just to prepare you, just to see how you'll be in those elements. How can you handle yourself in those elements? How do you handle people in those elements? Because sometimes you'll go do something just to build a relationship with somebody. and that's it. It's not necessarily to change your life that day, but you'll form a new relationship or make a new impression that could lead to that day. So, there was a show called Hit the Floor. They used to come on BET. It was a scripted show, and they had a Tostitos collaboration. So there was a nice house in Beverly Hills with a nice pool, basketball court, and we shot the commercial there. And I mean, it was cool. It was a really, really fun shoot. So, that was a cool experience with Tostitos and the positioning of the chips and how they had everything set up. And
They
it was
spend
cool.
hours like thinking that stuff through.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Man. So now you're producing and putting on shows over at the Notoriety Club down on
Right.
Fremont Street on the 3rd floor above Denny's.
Correct.
And those shows are Saturday night, and doors open at 8:30. Show starts at 9 with Laugh After Dark. And you host many times, or most of the time. I've seen other. Do you host
Every time.
everything?
Every
time.
Saturday. Every Saturday I'm there.
Okay. My
So,
bad.
No, all good.
Holding up the old lady card.
we got a lot going on though. So there's always new faces coming in. We got comics coming in from all over the world. So there's a lot going on. A lot of people are hitting me up like, Charlie, when's your show? I was like, it's Saturday, because we got a lot of content, and we're new to Vegas, so we're still making our way to get Vegas familiar with us, as well as the tourists that come in and visit. So everybody kind of knows where to find us.
So let's talk about Laugh After Dark. It was in LA and now it's moved totally to Vegas. Am I right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I got a chance to be on Laugh After Dark season 2 when it was filmed in LA. That was my first official TV credit as a comedian with Laugh After Dark season 2, with the host Luke Ashley. So shout out to her, who was the host for season 2 Laugh After Dark that was shot in LA. After that show was done, it was live on Amazon. I was super excited. It was great, but still selling cars, still got to do what I got to do. It was another notch on the belt, feeding towards the momentum, super grateful, gratitude, right? And the producers of that show wanted to have a meeting and kind of chat a little bit. And I said, okay, well, I'm not really sure what this is about, but yeah, let's have a meeting. And that's when they were like, hey, we want to do season 3, and we wanted to know if you'd be interested in hosting. I was like,
Oh my God.
yes, I do. Yes. So we continued to work and kind of outline what season 3 Laugh After Dark would look like. And it was supposed to be filmed in Los Angeles in March of 2020. So as we all know, March 2020, we went through a pretty big lockdown. There was a shift. We actually had all the comedians casted. We had the venue booked out. The shows were sold out. And it was supposed to go down in Los Angeles. However, COVID had a different plan, and we decided to pull back and not shoot in LA and put everybody at risk. And there's a lot going on, and we decided to hold off. It was a tough decision to make because we were sold out. And all the comedians were ready to roll. And I'm gonna have to wrap up in like 5 minutes. My battery's getting low.
Okay.
Or plug in. But everything was sold out. The comedians are ready to roll, but we decided to pull back because of the pandemic. So we kind of just went into a little bit of a hiatus and kind of like, all right, well, we're just gonna play this COVID thing by ear because they're saying it's gonna be over in the summer and it's gonna reopen, but that just got drug out. So we decided to just shoot a podcast. So we currently have a podcast that's on YouTube called Do Tell with Laugh After Dark. So I'm sitting down with some of your favorite comedians. So subscribe to Laugh After Dark on YouTube, and then you'll see some of the comedians that have been on the show, some that have not been on the show. But that podcast is called Do Tell with Laugh After Dark. That's on Apple, it's on Spotify, and then you can find the actual filmed episodes on YouTube as well. So yeah, we were supposed to shoot in LA, but we never could get clarity as to when it would be safe to get people in a room together again, without masks. We want to see laughs. How do we do this? So I accidentally came to Vegas. I came to Vegas to do a show that I was booked on. And a friend of mine, Irish J, shout out to Big Irish J, he said, hey, why don't you try to come over here to this club? Maybe I can get you 5 minutes. And I went and performed at Notoriety Live. And that was kind of how that started, with that one performance that led to talking to the owner there and my team was with me, and we kind of, were able to kind of work through some details, and we thought it was a good idea to bring Laugh After Dark to Vegas. And it was just the right timing, the right place. Vegas has been dope. The people and the community here has been amazing. So, it worked out to where we were able to shoot our show. So now it's Laugh After Dark live in Vegas. And, we rock every Saturday night out. And we actually just wrapped up filming all 12 episodes for the show that will be streaming and available on your TV screen soon. So stay tuned for that.
So let's talk a little bit about the type of talent that's on Laughter After Dark. They're no slouches. You're not getting the kind of comedians that have no clue what to do with a large audience. They are professionals. You're getting a good, solid show from music, comedy, and your hosting is solid, and the crowd love it. Talk about Laugh After Dark.
Yeah. So one thing I've kind of wanted to do for the past few years, I'll probably say 5 or 6 years, was to have like my own late night TV show. Wow. So I actually shot like a TV pilot when I was in New York. It was actually supposed to be called The Charlie Wilson Show. This is like 2012, but it was at a local Manhattan network, and it just never really went anywhere. It was a pilot, but that's when I first changed my Instagram name to Charlie Wilson TV. That back in 2011 or 12. So that's always been something that was top of mind. So when we started talking about Laugh After Dark in Vegas, I thought it would be a good idea to have a band, to bring a different element to it. And it kind of gives it that nighttime show vibe. And, we were fortunate enough for one of our producers, Rob, who has a musical background, who used to tour all around the world in music. He's got great connections. And then, we kind of just started planning and building, and I'm so fortunate to work with a good team. Rob, Kelsey, Chris, the Fremont Funk Band, who are dope. Shout out to all of y'all. And we just kind of came together with this idea and this concept, and took a chance. We really took a chance in hopes that we would sell tickets, in hopes that the city would embrace us, in hopes that comedians would want to come in and visit what we're doing. Because, we don't go and book, the comedians that you see every other week, on the billboards. We're not booking the comedians you see that are, here necessarily. You'll see them on our shows, but we're really big on trying to bring light and awareness to the comedians that are putting in the work, that are really funny, but may not have gotten the same shine that some of these other comics may have, just because they're, different, or maybe in a different space. They're not big on social media or going through their own life stuff. We still can see the talent and give them an opportunity. So it's super, super grateful that everybody is having fun. The comedians love it. The band is having a blast. I have a good time every Saturday. It's the highlight of the week for me. And I'm hoping to continue to make it a highlight of the week for everybody that visits and lives in Vegas.
I as a comic, I go and I watch shows, and I get a feel for whether or not the crowd would like me. I know you're supposed to be at the level where everybody's going to love you, but there's certain places you go into and this is your room, And I got that feeling when I went there prior to you being there. And I told Mike Favorman, you got to put me on. This crowd would love me, right? Yeah. And he put me on. And like I had a mediocre set, but oh my gosh, I love your audience. I can sit in the audience, or I can be on stage, and there's a vibe that happens in your room.
Oh, it's a blast. There's an electricity for sure that, the audience kind of relays after the show, and while they're there. The comedians, they feel that energy. The band, literally the room lights up every Saturday. It seems like every weekend that passes, we're like, wow, that was a dope show. I had a blast. Everybody had fun. Wow. It's like every Saturday. So we're just hoping to keep up the momentum.
Yeah, and people hang around after, and they take pictures with the talent.
Yeah. Definitely. We got a nice red carpet set up. So we're taking pride in being able to bring LA, a little bit of LA, to Vegas here, with our red carpet, good photography, and a great place for comedians, and a great platform for comedians to perform, to feel good, to have a great stage, and also give the audience a great show with great talent that they had never seen before. So it's really nice to be able to tie and sandwich all that together, where it's, it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, it's a unique experience, everybody. So if you get to Vegas, and you should, you got to come to the Notoriety Club and see Laugh After Dark. Doors open
Yes.
at 8:30, show 9 on Saturdays. And this is the best host you're going to find.
Oh, stop it.
And the Fremont Funk Band, oh my gosh.
That's so good. So good. That was so good. They were like, what was that host name? But the band was good. I'm like, hey, hey.
And when you go into the club, you'll see Charlie doing all the grunt work. He's not sitting there in the back with a suit,
No.
hanging out, looking down his nose at you. He's up there checking the plugs, on stage, walking around, greeting everybody. You're just a real pro.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm trying to figure it out and get better and learn as I go, and continue to just to grow here and stretch Laugh After Dark even further. So we have plans to continue to grow as a brand. We've got a really small team, but a really good team. So we're just embracing the process and having fun, and looking forward to what the future holds. Very optimistic about it.
Another thing, that as a human being coming to a comedy club, I look at how well do you get greeted before you get into the show. You get greeted at the door, and they take your ticket at the bar, the waitress, everything's got to add up for the show to work. It isn't just sit back and wait for the comics to do their thing. Because if you're pissed off because of something at the door, the show may not work so well.
That's a really good point.
Everything works here. Everything works here.
That's a really good point. And we've all really came together. The staff at the club has been great, and we've had some good helping hands here that have come to contribute to Laugh After Dark with some, with just being able to make sure things roll smoothly, because we've been packing the house out, fortunately enough, but the staff is, getting prepared for, oh shit, Laugh After Dark's coming. We got to get ready. Let's get the chairs set. Let's make sure, because they want their drinks, and we got hot, fresh pizza every Saturday. So we got a nice select drink menu set up that's special and unique for Laugh After Dark guests. So you'll have to check that out. We got a drink called the Screw After Dark. Okay. So definitely check out our select drink menu when you come. And we look forward to seeing everybody come up.
Well, you've been a doll to come on here, and I've enjoyed everything. It seems like we have had parallel lives. And I couldn't keep my mouth shut. We have so many coincidences. Except I'm like 30, 40 years older than you. We're identical twins.
Right. A lot of common things.
Yes. And so I just want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your life, sharing your passion. And I love what you had to say about momentum and gratefulness. I think that should be, if you had to say one thing, one mark you want to leave on the world before you kick the bucket. I'm closer to kicking the bucket than you, but if you had to say one thing that you're trying to leave the world with, what would you say?
3 words.
Okay.
Faith over fears. Fears are going to be there. Fears are always present. These natural feelings that make us question this, taking a chance on this person, this relationship, this career change, this job quitting, this, comedy career, this opportunity. Do we continue it? But if your faith is in the driver's seat all the time, your fears are usually in the back. So just keep your faith in the forefront, and everything else will fall behind you, and your faith will carry you to your next level. So just faith over fears.
I love it. Thank you so much, Charlie Wilson. And online, it's Charlie Wilson TV. Where else would you like to plug your social? What social media would you like following at the most?
Easy peasy. Instagram is going to be the top one. If you type in Charlie Wilson TV, I think my Facebook will come up, my Twitter, perhaps I'll tweet here and there. But definitely check out my website, charliewilsontv.com. And for everything about the show, it's laughafterdark.com. So you'll see our show season 2 that's on Amazon Prime now. Our podcast, you'll be able to kind of find everything within that. So laughafterdark.com, and then I'm at charliewilsontv.com. So yeah, I'm glad that we finally got together and we got a chance to catch up and learn a little more about each other. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later. Love you lots. See you later.
Thanks, dear. All right, love you back.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.